So today, when we talked about robotics and everything with Shelly today, that was a really good conversation, and it really brought me back to when I was in school and when I was making these decisions about what my career was going to be. My major was computer science, so from the time I went into school, I was like, my major is going to be computer science. I had no question about it. To go back and do it over again, I would probably do exactly the same thing. But, a lot of times kids aren't really prepared to be making that decision at that point in time, especially with the amount of money that we have to spend to go to school. Most of us have to borrow. I was pretty fortunate. My parents were, they didn't make a ton of money. We lived in a small town, so we lived fine without making a ton of money. But it ended up making me eligible for the Pell Grant, so a lot of my school was paid for through that. So I didn't really have to borrow, but about $2,000. Pretty easy to pay back. But a lot of people aren't in that situation, So we end up forcing these kids who are like 17 years old to choose a career that they're not even necessarily prepared to choose. And they have to pay all this money to learn this thing that they need, or to get this piece of paper, hopefully learn the things they need to do this job once they get out, right? And it's not always the best situation. How many times has somebody gone to school for something that they thought they'd be interested in, and then they ended up hating it, or they couldn't find a job in it? It's really not a very good situation in the end. There's been a big movement lately. Certain people have been, kind of championing this individually to just learn something that doesn't require college to do. And honestly, in the field I'm in, I do IT now. I don't really program that much. My whole degree is in programming, and I really don't do it that much unless it's a project that I want to do for a side gig. Like we've done a few things here through Intellect. We've made a Chrome extension and stuff like that. Those are the sorts of things that I'll use my programming skills for, but I don't really use them professionally that much. Very, very little. But I in this whole journey of going to school and supporting myself while I was going to school, I worked in IT. So I learned a different side of the computer industry, which really has served me very, very well. And that's what I do professionally now. And it's, you don't need a degree to do IT. You just don't. You really don't need a degree to program. You can go and learn to program on your own. Most of what I learned about programming, I learned on my own, either before school, after school, extracurricularly while I was in school, just the stuff I was doing. So it's college isn't always necessary. I feel like we're forced to college more often than we should be. And these days, not even to talk about, not even to go into how that makes banks money and the government and different things like that. I feel like, it's kind of a scam. It's kind of a system set up to take advantage of young people. Not to say that nobody should go to college. Some people should go to college, College is a good thing, but you need to weigh the cost benefit. Somebody that talks about this a lot is Mike Rowe. Another person that talks about it a lot is Malcolm Gladwell. He's the author of books like Outliers and David and Goliath, among others. There's lots of books he's written. But college isn't necessarily the thing that needs to happen. I'm not saying don't. I'm not saying do. But I'm saying check and make sure that you're making an educated decision about what career you're going into and whether you're going to make enough money to really have to spend the money to learn that. And do you even need to spend the money to learn that? Can you learn that at a less expensive school and do the same job? I started off at a school that was a little more expensive. I had a scholarship to it, so that helped a lot. That scholarship didn't last due to my own foolishness. And I ended up going to a less expensive school, but, whatever. I got a computer science degree. Nobody, my employer never even cared where I went to school. If it wasn't Harvard or something Ivy League, then it didn't really matter where you went to school. So maybe you can get it cheaper. Maybe you can get it online. Weigh your options. Check and make sure that what you're going to do is going to benefit from college, or just try to learn it without it. That's definitely an option that will become a more viable option as time goes on. So for today's Afterthought, That's what I'd like to say. College isn't the only way to go about it, but don't necessarily do it. Don't necessarily not do it. Just make sure you're making an educated choice when you choose your career and what's going to happen next there. Thanks a lot. We look forward to seeing you next week.